As was common in the time of the judges, as soon as one judge would pass away, would die, the people would go back to worshiping idols, things carved from their own hands, wood, metal, stone. And yet, God was very displeased with this. We see in today's reading in Judges chapter 6, verse 8, God is saying, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, I brought you up out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians, and I delivered you from all your oppressors. I drove them out before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the God of the Amorites, in whose land you live. But you have not listened to me. And yet, God is so faithful, and he still raises up another judge. And in today's episode, we see that this next judge's name is Gideon. When we meet Gideon, he's hiding out. He is threshing wheat in a wine press, which, P.S., you can't really do. You can, but it's not very conducive. You're supposed to thresh wheat out in the open where there's wind, because you would actually throw the wheat up in the air, and the heavy seeds, the kernels would fall, but then the chaff would be caught in the wind and kind of blow away. And it was a separation process that you kind of needed a lot of space and air for. So to be like hiding out in a wine press is going to be a little bit harder. Why was he doing it? Because the Midianites, surrounding nation who did not know the Lord, who had been oppressing the Israelites, would come and take your stuff. And so he's down there and he's hiding. And yet when God speaks to Gideon, he doesn't say like, hey, you, that guy, the one who's hiding out, let's go talk over here about how this is all going to work. No, he says, greetings, mighty warrior. Like, what? But how precious. The angel appears and says, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior, in verse 12, which is ironic because he's hiding out. And even though Gideon, instantly comes back with, why has all these things happened to us? God just gives him a command and says, go in the strength that you have. And Gideon obeys. Now, there's doubt. Gideon has kind of this back and forth conversation with God, and yet that's okay. Like that conversation is not unwelcomed by the Lord. He enters into that with Gideon, and then Gideon goes. It's very important. I think sometimes we just like to share our doubts or talk about how we're feeling or like, why have all these things happened? But yet Gideon still follows the Lord and goes into battle. The Lord had responded in verse 16, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive. And so he went, and do you know how Gideon responds? In the appropriate way. He built an altar to the Lord there, and he worshipped. He named it, the Lord is Peace. And he also broke down his father's altars that were for idol worship. We can see there's something going on in his heart, and then he actually goes into battle. But even here, the Lord is the one who is going to get the glory and the credit for it. And so he takes this horde of thousands of men and strips them down, humbles them to just 300 in number. And they go out and they fight a very unique battle in a very unique way. But it shows and it proves God's got this, and he is fighting on their behalf. He is their leader. He is the one who's going to take care of them. He promised it right from the beginning, like, I will drive out your oppressors. But your hearts have to be mine. The credit has to be to me, not to something you carved by your hands. God is so faithful. He used Gideon in a mighty way, but this story is not about Gideon. It is about God and how his glory was on display and how he is ultimately after his people's hearts.